5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
You're listening to the GHT Overland Podcast. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on the GHT Overland Podcast.
We are super excited to bring you this episode for families, for couples, and for anyone looking for a little inspiration to make that overlanding trip you've been dreaming about reality.
This two-part episode should give you what you're needing.
A good amount of practical tips with lots of good references to episodes 4 and 5 with Ox Overland after Jason and a group of 5 like-minded guys retrace the Oregon Trail overland style.
This time we had the great fortune to hook up with Jason and his wife Francesca, reviewing their upcoming family overland trip through Southeast Asia. I thought they were going to South America.
You know, as much pre-show research as we do, somehow I screwed that one up. However, I left in that little error of mine. I think it goes to show that being open-minded, even after you've selected a place, is absolutely okay, and it might even end up working to your advantage.
And better super soaker water cannon opportunities.
Hey, don't give away the little nuggets.
We hope you get some inspiration, tips, and a few laughs as Jason and Francesca share their family plans with 2 young children, budgeting, tips, and all of our normal barrage of questions. Okay, get ready.
Enjoy.
Thank you for joining us on the GHT Overland Podcast.
This is where you get the greatest interviews and insights from overland travelers around the globe, learning from their stories and experiences as we interview overlanders from places like Australia, Africa, the Americas, Portugal, and today our little corner of the world in Oregon. You will learn the basics to the advanced in overlanding, so buckle up and get ready for a new adventure. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lisa. Today's featured guests are Jason and Francesca, husband and wife, and parents of 2 energetic kids, soon to be off on a 6-month overland trip. How cool is that?
That is pretty cool. So get ready. We are going to go through a load of great information, tips, and preparing a family overlanding trip, along with lessons learned so far from their experiences. So without further ado, Francesca and Jason, welcome and thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Jason sounds familiar, we talked with Jason almost exactly 2 years ago after he wrapped up an Oregon Trail expedition. You can go back to episode 4 and 5 to hear about that adventure.
Yeah, that was a good one.
We've since ran into Jason over the last 2 years at the Northwest Overland Rally and learned about this upcoming overland trip for the Ox family through South America as a family adventure.
Woo!
How's that? That sounds super cool. I'm super excited to talk to you guys. So again, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, you bet. It's actually, well, maybe the first thing we should get into is we're actually going to Southeast Asia, not South America. That was the original plan, but it's switched since. So maybe that's something we should probably get into.
Southeast Asia,
get into
spontaneous
first.
here. I like it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I screwed that up.
No,
Right,
I think
cool.
you got it right because we were going to South America. I think the last time we talked, that's where we were going, but we've since switched our plans.
Way to spice it up, Jason.
Yeah, sorry, I should have.
Awesome.
I should have probably led with that.
So, Francesca, we're going to give you the first shot with a question out of left field here. How did you and Jason meet?
We met, I was, I think, 17, and he was 23, and we met in Southern Oregon at a park, and he literally swept me off my feet. He actually gave me a concussion the first night we met.
Oh, that's rough.
Oops.
Wowza.
Well, he left a lasting impression.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And Jason, when you presented Francesca with the idea of a family overlanding trip for 6 months through South Asia, describe that first initial look on her face.
I don't think she was too shocked that I was asking her. I don't know. That's a really good question, because I feel like it was a slow process leading up to the building up to hey, what if we left for 6 months? It was more we started with our small family trips and kind of built up to that. So when I actually presented it, it didn't seem like that left field, I guess. It was kind of maybe a little bit of a natural progression. So there wasn't a really I don't feel like there was a real big shock to or a big surprise hey, we're going to travel for 6 months.
Yeah, I think too, with him going on the Oregon Trail trip, I had an idea, he planned that big trip. And so we had always talked about, hey, we should do something as a family when he came back.
Well, I think that also speaks to their relationship. So they know each other, they're used to these things, and they have good communication. So it wasn't just, oh, hey, by the way, on a Wednesday in the middle of June, we're going to go to Southeast Asia for 6 months and take the kids.
Yeah. Well, I think if you would have asked me, I would have thought, how long is my concussion lasting?
You're going to go back to the concussion? That was years ago.
Well, that's out of the blue for us. Take the kids? Are you crazy?
I think you did have a concussion. That's awesome. Francesca, what were your first initial thoughts about doing the trip as you guys kind of talked about it and then settled, hey, man, we're actually going to go do this thing? What were your thoughts? If you can kind of put that into the realm of being a mom with the family and the whole thing, what were your first initial thoughts going into the trip?
Yeah, I'm more of a security type person. I mean, I like the day in and day out of going to work and being secure in that. And, my first thoughts were, this is kind of crazy. What are we going to do about, health insurance? What are we going to do about, income? And so I'm more of the practical one where I think things through and I need a lot of time to process. And so those were kind of my first initial thoughts.
All very valid.
Yeah. It sounds like you guys balance each other out pretty good.
Yeah, I'm definitely the dreamer and she's the practical one.
That's good. That's a good mix. So Southeast Asia is a general description of your trip. Can you tell us exactly where the trip's going to start and any specific routes that you already have planned out or just absolute can't miss spots that you've nailed down?
Sure. Yeah. So like we said, we're planning to go to South America. That was the whole, we'd been planning for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half up to that point. And then we went to Thailand and we went, it was a 2-week trip that we took over there, spent 2 weeks just basically going from northern Thailand to southern Thailand and loved it. And then we came back and we kept talking about, hey, what if we did kind of a similar trip that we're going to do in South America, but we did it in Southeast Asia eventually. And we kept talking about that. And finally, we're like, why don't we just skip the foreplay and go to Southeast Asia? And so when we started going through that and trying to figure out what that actually looked like, because at first we weren't even sure if it was possible because it was such a big switch and there's not a lot of overlanding being done or even camping over in that area. And so it was a real big unknown. So we kind of had to, do the initial, can we even drive over there? Can we even get our rig over there? That kind of thing. And then once we did, we realized it was possible. We were kind of trying to figure out what countries do we want to go into and logistically what makes sense because there's a lot of islands over there. There's the Philippines and Indonesia and, all kinds of islands over there. So it's being vehicle based, what makes most sense for us. And so we kind of wanted to stick to mainland Southeast Asia. So we're going to land in Thailand and it's kind of a weird circle is what we're going to, I don't know, it's not even a circle, I guess, but a weird kind of like a circular around the Thailand down to Malaysia. We'll go to Singapore for a little bit, come back up through Malaysia, around northern Thailand, and then we'll come down through Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, and then ship back from Cambodia. There's like a slight chance we'll go to Burma, maybe Indonesia in there if it works out and all the stars align, but the main like mainland countries are the ones that we're going to stick to.
Okay, very cool. So any specific like spots you really want to see or areas while you're there?
No, the big thing that like our whole family's been looking forward to is in Thailand. It's kind of like their New Year. It's called Songkran, and it's basically the country shuts down. I mean, it's obviously bigger in some places than others, but it's like a 3-day water fight. So the whole like Chiang Mai, where we're going to be for it, is probably the biggest place, but the whole town shuts down, and if you're in the streets, you're fair game. So there's super soakers, water balloons. It's just a crazy kind of festival. So that was a big thing that we wanted to hit with the kids. And
what did you install on the truck? A big hose or something?
It's like a fireman hose.
No, it's just like a water pump with a hose sprayer, so I can spray that. I installed it under the guise of spraying off the kids in the truck, but it was really for this water fight.
That's awesome. Not for the shower, but for the water fight. That's great.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So, hey, can you walk us through some of the details on your truck and the trailer? And I know that you've done a ton of upgrades on the truck. I was watching some of your YouTube videos on that. And for our listeners, if you have not seen any of Jason's YouTube videos, you owe it to yourself to go through and watch them. They're really good. But I really don't know much about the trailer. So take it away. Give us some details, if you would, on the truck and the trailer.
Sure. The truck is 2006 GX470. And it's been most of what you can do to it has been done. Obviously, suspension, full armor. Some of my favorite upgrades is we put a 33-gallon long-range automotive fuel tank in there, and so that gives us a total of, I think, 58 gallons of fuel, which equals about, I don't know with the tow in the trailer, but probably between 500 and 600 miles of range. And then we put a Switch Pro system on there, which I'd never used before, and I was so impressed with it that I put it on my the trailer as well. But I like it because it was simple. It was like a switch system. It comes with 8 switches, but it's a solid state, so there's no fuses or relays. Oh, and nice. So yeah, it was a really cool install. But other than that, we did all your normal. We've got roof boxes. We didn't do a rooftop tent because we've got the trailer. And like I said, in one of those roof boxes, I installed a water pump. So we've got a water sprayer or a water gun, depending on what you want to like out of that. And a
really powerful shower.
What else have we done? Dual battery system. We've got a Warn winch on the front. All the good recovery goodies to self-recover if we need to. And then the trailer is a Overkill camper. They're a company based here out of Bend, and they make one of the only like teardrop style campers that it has a slide out, and there's a little table in there that folds down into a small little bed. The bed's about the size of a crib.
Yeah, they actually before our camper, they didn't have the bed made, and so they actually kind of fitted that for us specifically, because that was one of the main things for me. Is originally when we were going to South America, we were going to take a teardrop and then a rooftop tent, and I didn't really feel comfortable with shoving the kids up in the tent by themselves. They're only almost 3 and 5, so that was one of the big things with this trailer company is we can all sleep inside.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And they look like really good trailers. Yes. I saw those was it the year before last year for the first time at the Northwest Overland Rally, and I was surprised that there was a slide out. I was like, that is legit.
Yeah, it makes it the inside actually, as small as the footprint is, because I think it's 5 feet by 10 feet. But then when you push that slide out, there's like a little table and a bench in there. Then, like I said, that slides out into another bed. But it's like, you can actually, if it, because we are going over to Asia in monsoon season. So if it does start pouring, there's somewhere we can kind of go inside and hang out for a little bit. And we're a pretty small family anyways. So we fit nice and snug in there.
Cool.
I know we have several families inquiring about planning an extended overland trip with kids. So, Francesca, from a mother's point of view, what were your top things to plan for and consider?
I think, I don't know. That's a good question. When it comes to the kids, what do we consider?
I mean, they're not in school right now, so that was a big thing why we wanted to take this trip now, because Marley starts school in September. So that's kind of why we had planned this trip when we did. So that was one thing we did consider was school. And I guess in the future, if we're planning on, to continue to travel, we'll have to consider, school. How will we go about if we'll homeschool or, travel just during the summer? So that would be one thing I would say we had to consider.
I think, we've traveled with our kids overland style since they were born too. So it's kind of hard to say like what we're preparing for, because a lot of the stuff that we've done, we've always done. We've got their little books. One of the things we did was we bought them, they like Dad's cameras. They like taking pictures. And so we bought them their own little, I don't even remember the brand, but, like Fisher-Price style digital camera. And so they can take their own pictures and stuff. So, a lot of it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it's keeping them entertained. But just being in a different country and seeing different things is going to be entertaining enough. But we brought a slack line, something to do at camp, and then their books and coloring books and a few toys. But space is limited, right? So, books are a little bit easier to find space for than their bulky toys and whatnot. So I think the toys are going to be limited to what they can keep in their little pouches in the car, and then we've got a bunch of books and stuff for them.
Yeah, we actually also over Christmas talked to a family who lived in Thailand for a year, and they kind of gave us some good pointers on, even enrolling our kids into, they have daycare, preschools over there to kind of immerse them into the culture, which I thought was really cool.
Like expat Facebook groups that so they're all American based families that are over there. So there's a lot of if you know how to network on Facebook and stuff, there's a lot of resources even when you travel abroad to kind of get connected with other travelers and if you need a night out with mom, because I'm sure we will, we'll find places to that are trustworthy that you can leave your kids to for a couple hours, So there's all those things to kind of take into consideration when you're traveling, because you are kind of thrust into a small confined space for 6 months. I've done it with 5 other guys, but I haven't done it with my family. I imagine it'll actually probably be easier with your family than 5 other dudes.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
so since you guys have been doing this for so long with the kids, what are some of the tips that you've got for the kids to keep them entertained so that they don't absolutely go stir crazy and scream for the entire trip?
Yeah, a couple of the things, we always try and travel during nap time. So if we have, a long stretch to go, we tend to, maybe do something in the morning and then get their energy out, and then we'll go ahead and, start driving during nap time. In the GX, we do have the TV player, so, they'll watch movies, and then we just try and bring things like coloring books. They got some magnetic kind of funny faces for Christmas, and so they'll play with those types of things. We play I Spy, so games.
Yeah, you get about, I think, maximum probably 6 hours before you gotta get out of the car. If you take into consideration, if you can get an hour and a half, 2 hour nap time, you 2 or 3 hour movie that puts you about 5 hours, and you can kind of space it out a little bit. But 6 hours with, 2 young kids is about as much as you're going to get. And, the other thing that we've done too is driven at night, just because they sleep a lot longer at night. And we'll, do it that way to make up a little bit more time, more miles that way. But, part of going to Southeast Asia was, and the appeal to that was, we're covering such a smaller geographical area that we can actually spend a lot more time in these areas rather than just trying to, see,
sure,
2/3 of a continent in 6 months. Now we're like, find a much smaller area. So we won't be
that idea of stretching out more often.
Yeah. 6 hours is a long time. I get stir crazy after 6 hours. I might start screaming.
Yeah, totally.
So at this point, pre-trip takeoff, any advice you'd give to families listening that are thinking or dreaming about doing a trip like this? And you know what I'm talking about. There's people that would think and plan and, maybe someday. You guys are doing it. So what advice would you give to somebody that's still stuck on the couch watching YouTube videos to actually go out and do something?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the best advice I can say is you got to do it. You got to take those first steps. Like it can be daunting to try to we're going 6 months to a place. I mean, even sometimes I get panicked at night. I'm like laying in bed thinking we only went to Thailand for 2 weeks and now I'm going to be over in this area that that we don't speak the language. I mean, every country we're going to speaks a different language. So there's huge, communication barriers. It's is this crazy? But I mean, the thing about it is you just take, 1 or 2 steps and pretty soon those few steps equal we're, now a month away or a few weeks away from departing on this journey now. But if you just kind of take those steps, 1 step at a time, that's what I always tell Francesca. She gets a little overwhelmed sometimes. So I'm like, just 1 step at a time. Let's just do this one task and then we'll get to the next one after that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is, I look at life and things happen all the time. And to me, it's like life is too short. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. And if you don't do it now, you may never have the opportunity to do it.
I like
True.
That.
Absolutely. I mean, that's facts, right? So taking that first step, making the action, it can be something small, but take the action to get to where you want to get. And eventually you'll find yourself in Southeast Asia.
For those guys out there trying to get their family into it, one key piece of advice that I could say is start small and make sure the first experience is a really good experience, because you're always going to be fighting an uphill battle if the first experience is negative. So as much as you can try to make the first experience super enjoyable, super comfortable, maybe super on the glamping side rather than the overland side, if you get them into it slowly, it goes a long way. Because I think, that's what I did with our family. It was just we started with overnight trips, and then with Marley, we did that 10-day trip through, Canada, going to state parks and stuff, and we just kind of incrementally started going on longer and longer trips. And so that's how we started. Because I think a lot of people are like, how would you even begin that? And it's just the advice we said earlier. It's just baby steps. Start with, a day trip, and then see if they like it. If they like it, go on a overnight or work your way up from there.
Wisdom. Go ahead. Sorry.
Francesca, this one might be for you, unless Jason is the chef of the Ox family. Can you walk us through?
He is the chef. So I work a full-time job, and so he's home right now, and so I get dinners made for me.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, you did do the.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we kind of flip-flop sometimes. I mean, when we were newly married, I did a lot of the cooking, and now that we're in this position, he does the cooking, and he actually cooks really good.
Oh.
Yeah, but I imagine when we go on the trip, we've both been kind of doing the food stuff, and I'm the food, actually, that's kind of an interesting thing to get into, because we don't even really have any idea what we're going to get into cuisine-wise.
We've talked about basically food-wise doing breakfast and lunch ourselves, and then we'll probably go ahead and emerge in the cultures for dinner. One of the other things the family we had talked to over Christmas, they said most people in Thailand, they actually all eat out. A lot of places don't have kitchens. And so it's just really inexpensive just to go get street food or go to, you know, a restaurant. A restaurant there isn't like going out to a restaurant here. I mean, I think Jason and I when we were in Thailand, we went and got pad Thai and it was like $2. And that was our dinner. So totally it's almost worth it to go ahead and just eat out versus, you know, the cooking, you know, for the family. So I think that's kind of what we're planning on doing.
Yeah, we brought some stuff to get us started, like, you know, like mostly for the kids, just so they can like slowly work into Thai. Me and Fran love Thai food, but like our kids aren't spicy food eaters. And so we're like, okay, we know they eat rice and noodles, so we're at least good there. But we brought like mac and cheese and some like fruit pouches and stuff like that, stuff that we know we can't get over there, just to get us at least started. And then we'll kind of like probably figure out the things that the kids will eat. I mean, that's a lot of our diet depends on what they're going to eat, you know?
So can you walk us through your cooking setup?
Is that in the trailer or is it in the back of the truck? How did you set that up?
No, it's in the trailer. So okay. The door side of the trailer towards the back has a flap you lift up, and then out slides your stove and your sink. And then behind you is your fridge freezer. So we've got a Dometic dual zone. It's like the biggest one they make, the 95. So we've got plenty of space to keep food in there. And then on the other side is your stove. And then just like any teardrop, the back lifts up and you've got storage of stuff for food and everything. And that's where we keep all our plates and pots and pans and all that good stuff. So we haven't honestly, like, we've gone through this whole like issues with the trailer. So we were actually supposed to have it in August. And we didn't get it until like end of November, and it's been kind of back and forth trying to figure out different things that were getting done on it. And so we really haven't had a good chance to use it, to be honest. We slept in it once in our backyard, and then not last weekend, but the weekend before we went out. Didn't plan on camping in the snow, but we ended up in about 2 feet of snow. Yeah. And so we kind of got to use it. So it's going to be a real adventure when we get over there, because a lot of the trailer stuff we really haven't even had a chance to shake out yet. And typically I'm the type of person that packs heavy and then over time like pares down to like just the essentials. And so this is like, okay, we're just going to pack heavy and figure it out when we're over there.
We'll probably be giving things away along the way. Yeah. We don't need this anymore.
We've heard that a few times. That's awesome. So for the times that you will be cooking and doing your own meals, what's a favorite meal other than, if I remember right, I think it was the pita bread sandwiches that were the staple of the Oregon Trail expedition?
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh, don't even talk about pita bread sandwiches. That's like this running joke now too. Every time we get together, like, what are we eating? Pita bread sandwiches? God, those are so disgusting too. It's just like eating it just to get some kind of substance. It was like legitimately like just pita bread, like this weird chipotle mayonnaise and like ham, I think is what it was. It was gross. Hopefully we'll be doing better than that this time.
So when you're out on an expedition, what is your favorite meal to cook if you're doing it yourself?
I think nachos. I love doing nachos. Yeah. I do it on we've got like a skillet. We can put on like a 2-burner skillet that we put on top of the stove, and then I'm like super particular on my nachos. I don't like a mountain nachos. It has to be one layer, and then all the toppings go on top of that. So I make this big like kind of platter of nachos, and that's what I like. That's another thing too. I was telling Fran last night, I'm like, we're gonna have to bring a cooler with a huge block of cheese, because they don't have like, dairy isn't a real big thing over there. So cheese isn't like, it's kind of hard to get over there. So I'm like, we'll bring a cooler just for the cheese.
Well, it keeps, right?
Yeah, it does.
You got to have aged cheese.
That's aged cheese.
So by the time you're done with the trip, it'll be the best cheese you've ever had.
Exactly.
How do you plan on keeping up with laundry during this trip? I remember laundromats were definitely the go-to for the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the same plan. We decided to pack, so 2 weeks of clothes for the kids and about 10 days for us, and we figure we could stretch ours out a little bit more. But we're planning on doing laundry probably every 2 weeks is kind of the goal. And so I think we'll be doing it mostly in the laundromat. Worst comes to worst, I have a sink.
Yep. We'll make it work.
Did you have a shower and toilet set up, or what's your plan on hygiene?
Yeah, so we do have a shower. There is a hot water tank on the trailer, and Jason just had a swing out made. So we have a 23-0 shower room, and he just had some fabrications made to have it swing out and kind of mount right on the end of the trailer. So that swings out. If you watch his last, was it a video you did? Oh, it was Instagram, huh? That you just posted yesterday?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he had just posted about the shower room so you could see it. And then for our toilet room, we just got, it's like a little...
It's like a cheap pop-up.
Like
toilet room off of Amazon. And then we got, I don't even know what you would call that toilet. It's basically, it's a rectangular toilet that has 3 legs that folds out, and then like the top comes off. You put a bag in it, and we just figured it would be easier to deal with like disposing of like bags than it would be to like clean out a cassette toilet over there. And so this is like one of those things where we're like, we think this is going to work best for us, but we got to get over there and try it out, because we really don't. I mean, it's 40 degrees here. It was like snowing the other day, so it's not really conducive to go out and use this stuff outside very well.
Excuse me, Francesca, what's your husband doing in the backyard?
Gotta test things out.
The neighbors might get a little weirded out.
Yeah, I just didn't really want something, we looked at different toilets, and I didn't want something first of all, we didn't have room for something large, and I didn't want it like sloshing around in our trailer, So I figured with the bags, you just tie it off, throw it away, and it's done.
Boom. Nice. I completely agree.
We may have a completely different opinion on that when we get back, but for now, I think we tried it out once. It seemed to work good, so.
All right, we'll check in and see how things went.
Yeah.
So to date, in getting ready, what has been the number one biggest challenge you've had to face?
Expectations. The plan was, and this was me because I hate the cold weather, was to leave in November before all the cold weather hit. And then we do 6 months back here during the summer. But with all the logistics and trying to figure things out and this delays, now we're into February is when we'll probably actually ship out. The truck will ship out end of this month, and then it takes about 5 weeks to get there. So we'll end up probably end of February get there. But the biggest headache for sure has just been the logistics of the whole, like shipping, the truck trailer shipping situation. That's been the biggest.
Getting the trailer and then now shipping.
Yeah.
So what's your advice on shipping? Like, is there a company that are you happy with that you've chosen? Any advice there for somebody that might be looking to do that?
Yeah. What is the name of the company? I think it's Titan Logistics is who we're working with. And they've been really good. We've kind of switched things around on them, and the dates have been like we said, we were supposed to leave in November. So we've been kind of like a pretty hard, at least I feel like a pretty hard customer, and they've been really good. So if you're shipping over to the Asia area, Titan Logistics is a good company to use. And then just give yourself time, because, I mean, there's so many things. There's what's called a carnet. If you're not familiar with that, it's kind of like a passport for your car. And so one of the things we figured, we could just take the trailer and have one, but because you technically have 2 vehicles, you need 2 carnets, one for each. And then what else? They want a list of everything that you're bringing, the titles, original titles for both, So there's just a lot of like paperwork things that you got to get in order. And it's a little confusing if you've never been through it before. So just give yourself time if you're going to go through that, and make sure you allow for extra time.
And then how did you cover insurance both for the shipping, and what is your game plan for doing insurance during the trip?
For shipping, the Carnet company has like actual shipping insurance that you can put, I think they call it marine insurance, that you can put on it. And then we also have this other company, because I'm a little more paranoid. I mean, I've put so much work into the truck that I'm like, I don't want anything to happen. So we actually are working with another company that's going to insure the truck and trailer individually. So it's not like accident insurance, but it's like if something happens to it, it falls off the ship, if somebody steals it, then it's covered, and we can recoup some of our investment on that. Car insurance, you basically, every country you go in, you get insurance there. And every country is, I think, going to be a little different in what they require and what you have to go through. So it's going to be part of the adventure, is figuring all that out.
Okay. And then any tips on getting your passports, extra copies, visas, vaccinations, any insights there that you think would be helpful for our listeners?
Well, we've had our passports, Jason and I, for a while. So we got the kids' passports. Well, Marley had hers because we had taken her up to Canada. So we got Jackson's, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago.
And then we got the passport cards.
And we also, we got passport cards in addition. So we have those. And then vaccinations. There's a couple clinics that do vaccinations, and you just have to get them about 3 weeks before you leave. So.
Okay. Which vaccinations do you need to get, and how did you figure that out?
CDC website. There's like a whole bunch of them. Actually, after you talk to the travel clinics, some of them, like, only if you're going to certain parts of these countries do you need them. So I don't even remember. We have a list of them in the. I
actually can get some. I had talked to my primary care doctor, and he said he can do some of them just in his doctor's office, but some of them you do have to go to the travel clinic to get.
Yeah, and there's like a whole bunch of them, like Japanese encephalitis, typhoid, polio, cholera, yellow fever, rabies, malaria, hepatitis. There's a whole.
I am totally excited to hear how this trip goes for them.
Me too. I think a few of our listeners will like hearing the family aspect and learn from their experiences.
Families and overland enthusiasts alike, be sure to look Jason and Francesca up as Ox Overland on social media. Follow along to see their trip unfold in front of your sparkly little eyes.
They have a really good YouTube channel under Ox Overland too.
True that. Part 2 will be coming up next week, so stay tuned in, logged in, subscribed, charged up, whatever it takes. And a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. Your support of the podcast truly means the world to us. If you'd like to help support the show and possibly get either a t-shirt or coffee mug or both maybe, take a look at the options while you're there. If you would like, you can send your questions, suggestions, and feedback to ghteoverlandpodcast@gmail.com. We'd love it if you would connect with us on social media. Be sure to share the episode with your friends who enjoy travel and adventure. Overlanding travel is all about meeting new friends, seeing the most amazing places on earth, and of course, new foods and new drinks.
We'd greatly appreciate your time of a quick rate and review of the GHT Overland podcast. It actually does make a ginormous difference for us to show up on all the podcast platforms.
We don't spend a lot of time boasting about reviews or notes that people send us. But hey, just so you know, we do read them, and thank you. We had a review come in this week that was embarrassingly awesome. So thank you for doing those reviews, and thank you for your notes your direct messages, your emails. They really mean a lot to us. So thank you. You guys are awesome.
GHT is showing gratitude, being humble, and having the tenacity to tackle your dreams. Thank you, and we will see you next Thursday for part 2 of the GHT Overland podcast with Jason and Francesca of Ox Overland.
Be sure to follow them on social media and YouTube under Ox Overland.